Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you're new to my channel. Either way, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It would really help me out, and it would also really help you out because you won't miss any of my great horror content. So, today we're going to take a look at a movie that's part of my four DVD pack from 1981, of course. It's part of my overall 1980s horror series. And the movie we're going to take a look at today is The Hand, directed by Oliver Stone and starring Michael Caine from 1981, which I'd never seen before this review. So, yeah, like I said, I have it part of this four films favorite collection here. So let's just go ahead and get into The Hand from 1981. So, The Hand is a 1981 American psychological horror film written and directed by Oliver Stone, based on the novel The Lizard's Tale by Mark Brandel. John Lansdale, a comic book artist who loses his hand, which in turn takes on a murderous life of its own. The original film score by James Horner. is one of the is one of his earliest projects. Warner Brothers released the movie on DVD September 25th, 2007. Well, okay. So basically, the film opens. John Lansdale is a comic book illustrator whose relationship with his beautiful wife Anne and daughter Lizzie is in danger. While driving, Anne and Lansdale end up behind a slow moving truck and an impatient driver behind them. In the heat of an argument, Anne accidentally pulls back too fast while Lansdale is waving down the truck driver, causing his right hand to be completely severed. Anne attempts to find the severed hand but cannot locate it. Lansdale starts a painful adjustment to not having his drawing hand, while Anne deals with the guilt of having caused the accident and tries to get closer to her husband. Lansdale attempts unsuccessfully to recover the hand himself, though he does find his signet ring that Anne gave him. The couple move to New York, and Lansdale is approached by his friend and agent Karen Wagner and to co-produce the comic with another artist, David Maddow. Lansdale, however, begins to show signs of mental breakdown, and when he shows the test boards to Karen, they are marked up. Karen retracts her offer and fires Lansdale, who cannot recall marking up the boards while questioning his daughter about the incident. In a fit of frustration, Lansdale loses his signet ring. So that's the setup, the premise, the beginning of The Hand from 1981. As far as the cast goes, we have Michael Caine as John Lansdale, Andrea Markovisi as Anne Lansdale, McEnroe as Stella Roche, Bruce McGill as Brian Ferguson, uh, Viv- Vivica Linsfors as psychologist, and Mara Hobble as Lizzie Lansdale. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Mara Hobble as Lizzie Lansdale. Anyway, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 1981 movie The Hand. Um, I really like this movie. We finally found a movie that in April, since I went back to 1981. We were kind of 0 for 4. Even though there were things I liked about the first four movies, none of them really reached great status to me. This movie does, though, for a variety of reasons, which I'm going to get into. So I was worried we might go through the whole month of April without a 1981 movie that I really liked and thought was great. But here we are. So anyway, as far as the pros go, of course, you have to start with the performance of Michael Caine. I mean, the guy, Sir Michael Caine, is just phenomenal, and he's phenomenal in this movie. Even though it's not a movie that he'll claim fame for. Him and Oliver Stone both kind of don't talk about this movie, as they went on to more prestigious movies, I guess, in their career. But I thought the performance of Michael Caine as John Lansdale is just incredible. He's totally committed to this character, and he really sells the premise of this movie like few others ever could, in my opinion. Just with his eyes, his emotions, not even so much about what he says, but just fantastic. And really the whole cast here, including, I thought the gal that played his wife, Andrea Marco, Marco, uh, Markovisi, Andrea Markovisi is great. I thought she did a really good job with some of the backstory of their chemistry of the couple and the the backstory of their struggling marriage. I thought she was really good. The whole cast, though, I thought was good. But Michael Caine really steals the show, as you would expect. I mean, he's the straw that stirs the drink here in this movie, and he's just phenomenal. The movie wouldn't be what it is, wouldn't be as good certainly without Michael Caine in that role. I really enjoyed the cinematography and the way certain scenes in the movie are shot. Early on, we get a POV shot of the hand. Actually, we get a few of them. Very well done. Clearly, an up and coming talented director in Oliver Stone years. I think this was the first movie that he directed, and he also wrote the screenplay for it. I don't know if it's the first time he did that or not, but yeah, I just really enjoyed the filming of the movie and how it was presented. Um, the movie does such a good job of setting up the viewer to where you're really not sure, and even at the end, you're not sure if the severed hand existed and it had a mind of its own the whole time, or if it was the other path that they kind of hint at through like 85% of them, well, 95% of the movie, which is it's all in Michael Caine's head. Either way, it's the movie works. At least it does for me. Now, everybody's going to have their own opinion about whether the hand was the real thing or whether it was just created in his own head. You can certainly make an argument either way based on how the movie's presented, but I really like the fact that um, it has a really good twist at the end. Um, and one of my other pros is the ambiguous ending. The fact that I like when a movie does that, as long as the movie's well made and set up in a good way, like this movie is. I like ambiguous endings. Some people don't. It drives them nuts. They want to know exactly what's happening, or what does this mean, kind of thing. And I'm not one of those people. Again, within reason. I mean, you got to explain some things to me. You can't just be a completely, because I've seen movies like that too that are just completely ambiguous all the way through, and that doesn't work for me. But when it's set up really well, like this movie is, um, the ambiguous ending here really works for me. Because we don't really ever know. It's never really said for sure whether Michael Caine's creating the severed hand that we see strangling people in the movie, or if it's all in his mind, or if this severed hand that they couldn't find at the site of the accident actually is a real entity. That's I just like that. I love the ambiguousness of it, and they do a really good job with that. While this movie is a slow burn, it does have a few scenes of strangling kills and on-screen blood, especially when Michael Caine has his hand severed. There's really a lot of blood with that. It's as it spurs the blood spurting out of his arm. Um, but yeah, that's just more of a letting you know that it is a slower burn, almost more of a psychological thriller. Although I do think there's enough horror elements in it to call it a psychological horror. But I would say psychological thriller slash horror is the best way to describe this movie. But just know that going in that it isn't going to be wall to wall scares and horror, but rather a very well thought out, well produced, well made psychological thriller with a great performance. The effects I thought with the severed hand are actually pretty good, especially for the time. They don't focus on it too much, and the shots they give us of it, they do it just right. So obviously, we don't see the inside part of the ham. We're just kind of seeing the. They do it well so that it doesn't expose any lack of good effects or make it look ridiculous or anything. And yeah, then like I mentioned, that ambiguous ending, the fact that the viewer kind of gets to choose. Now I have my own opinion about what the ending is. Whether the severed hand has a mind of its own, or whether it's all in Michael Caine's head. I think it could be both. I think it's kind of connected to both. But whether the hand really exists or not is like a physical object in, real life, that's for interpretation, and I like that. But I'm not going to give you away what I think because that'll give away the ending, or it'll give away more than what I want to give away in this video. Anyway, moving on to my cons. Not, I don't really have that many. It is a slow burn movie with a lot of plot and character development. I think the movie could have shaved off 10 to 15 minutes. There's certain scenes that drag a little bit that I thought could have been cut down. I think the film is about, what did it say, like 104 minutes or something. I think it could have been about 95 and it still would have been really effective, but that's a bit of a nitpick. It is more of a thriller than a horror, as I mentioned earlier. So you're not going to get a lot of gore scenes or scares, other than when he loses his hand. That's a gory, bloody scene. And I think there's one other one that has blood and somebody's being killed. But just so you know, those are just more warnings that if you're looking for Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something, this is not. But it is a very good psychological thriller slash horror with a great performance and a really talented up and coming director. And I also like the score for this movie too. I didn't mention that in my pros, but yeah, overall, guys, the hand really worked for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody. I've seen some other reviews that people don't like it. They thought there was some scenes that were unintentionally funny, like when he loses his hand. I didn't. It worked for me, and they didn't like the ending. But whatever. To each their own. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and I thought Michael Caine's performance and Oliver Stone's directing is really what really it's just a very well made, well acted movie. So 8 out of 10 for The Hand from 1981 here. Will I upgrade it? Probably to a single release, whether it be on DVD or Blu-ray. I think Scream Factory has a Blu-ray of The Hand, which I might check out as long as it's not too expensive. But yeah, with that being said, please subscribe to my channel as I mentioned earlier so you don't miss out any of my upcoming horror content, including the rest of this 1981 review series. Please hit the like button, the little notification bell, and comment down below any thoughts you have about this movie as well. I'd be interested to hear as long as they're not spoilers. So, with that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying this 1980s horror review series. And as always, stay scared. Bye.